Hey guys, how are you doing? So today let's talk about veneers. Let's talk about porcelain veneers. I've got another video on composite veneers. You can find that somewhere else. But we're going to talk about veneers and can you have veneers without grinding your teeth down to little stumps? So a lot of people initially, when they're looking to improve the look of their smile, they will find out a lot about porcelain veneers. And the more you find out, some people will see photos of people who've had their veneers done and what their teeth look like underneath, and they'll see that they've all been ground down to tiny little stumps, and this concerns them. So this video is really for those people who do want to improve the look of their smile. They want something comprehensive, long-lasting, but also they are conscious and aware of how much tooth needs to be reduced in order to get that result. So in other videos I've spoken about this and called it biological cost. Biological cost is essentially the amount of tooth you're going to lose in order to get the result you want, and it's irreversible. So that means no matter what you do, once it's gone, it's gone. Unlike financial cost, which, yes, you'll give a whole load of money to have this treatment done, but you can recoup that in the future. With biological cost, that's it. It is irreversible. There are different types of veneers, and in dentistry, in the dental world, we call this either non-prep or minimal prep veneers. Okay, prep means preparation. The amount of preparation work which is done to your teeth can either be non-prep or minimal prep. So I'll speak about minimal prep in a minute, but first let's talk about non-prep, because surely this would be a gold standard. I could offer an amazing treatment for my patients, have the veneers made in porcelain. It would hardly take me any time because all I need to do is take a mold or a scan of the teeth and send it over to the lab. They can make these veneers and we can just glue them in. But often it's not as simple as that. You see, here we have a photo of a lady who is trying in some non-prep veneers. Now you can see there's a massive difference between the veneers and her own teeth. The veneers just look big and bulky, and this is our problem. This is the key problem with non-prep veneers, in that we're just sticking something onto the surface of the tooth, onto the visible surface of the tooth. So this is going to immediately widen the smile, because let's assume we're doing a full set, 10, 12 teeth or whatever it is, and we're going to widen the smile. And in addition, in this case, we're lengthening the teeth as well. So suddenly we're starting to lose control of the final result, because the final result is very much dependent on the position of your own teeth. A lot of the time when people have these non-prep veneers, you know, it sounds like a great idea, but when you start putting them in, the smile just looks too toothy. It looks a little bit fake. And the whole reason for getting veneers is to get that perfect smile. Now, another reason that these teeth look a little bit fat and bulky is something called line angles. So let's cut a tooth in half this way, you know, by through the middle of its waist, and let's see what it looks like. It looks something like this. Now, if we were going to add a porcelain veneer onto the front of this tooth, the veneer, it needs a certain amount of thickness all the way through to give it strength, to make sure it doesn't break while we're sticking it in. So in these situations, we would need to add thickness all the way around. Now, if you look at the natural tooth before we put a veneer on it, it's got a front surface which is relatively flat, and then it's got the edges which are kind of flat in 90 degrees roughly, and then we've got this curve. Okay, so where this curve begins, we call this a line angle. A line angle is essentially where one plane of anything, how it joins and forms the next plane. So we can get hard line angles and we can get soft line angles depending on the amount of softness in this curve. But for cosmetic dentistry, what we need to be aware of is how wide these line angles are. So if you push the line angles right to the edge of the teeth, they're going to start to look fat. Okay, and then you're going to start to look too toothy. Whereas if we bring the line angles too close to the middle, suddenly these teeth start to look a lot thinner, and that may or may not be right for the individual patient. Now, if we're doing zero preparation onto the teeth, then we're adding this composite material, this porcelain material to the front of the tooth. And in order to maintain that thickness as the tooth goes around in between the two teeth, we have to ensure that the line angles are apart, because if our line angles are too close, it's going to leave us with these very thin pieces of porcelain which are just going to chip and break. So for that reason, I personally don't think that non-prep veneers work. Okay, in a lot of cases. Now, there are certain cases where non-preps do work beautifully, but I would say it's less than 10% of the patients who come and see me would be able to go for completely non-prep veneers and get that aesthetic result. Now, the other type of veneer is the minimal prep veneer. And with these minimal prep veneers, again, we're using the same porcelain technology. You know, it's still ultra thin. They're as thin as the labs and technology these days can make them. If a veneer is thin, it means less tooth reduction. But the way that I tend to do my veneers for smile makeovers is to design the whole smile in temporary materials. Okay, so first thing we do is just add material, typically to the teeth, without adjusting the teeth at all themselves, and we can craft what we want the end result to look like. Now, once we've figured out what the end result should look like, where the line angles should be, how wide the teeth should be, how long the teeth should be, and also we test out the bite in the temporary materials as well, we can work backwards, because then we can create depth grooves in the temporary material, and that will tell us how much adjustment needs to be done and on what areas on what teeth. So again, by using this method, we're not compromising on the aesthetics, which, remember, was the main reason for even looking at porcelain veneers. By doing this method, again, the reduction which we're doing is the absolute minimum and only in the places where the teeth need this reduction. And the beauty is, we can test if non-prep veneers would actually be suitable, okay, because we're doing everything in the temporary materials first, and if our depth grooves don't touch the teeth, then we know that we're safe in terms of non-prep veneers. Now, I'll do another video on another day about my whole veneer process, because it is quite different to the vast majority of dentists out there. To my knowledge, there's only 3 dentists in the UK who do it exactly the same way as I do, and one of them's retired last year. And he's the guy who I actually learned 90% of my stuff from. So if you want to see that video, hit subscribe. But the purpose of this video was to kind of show you 2 different tactics or 2 different ways that you can have veneers with little to no tooth reduction. And if you see an ethical dentist who is concerned about this stuff, they will use techniques similar to this when they're doing smile designs. And the technique I've mentioned with the depth grooves in dentistry, this is known as the Gruel technique, because I think there's a dentist with that name who kind of made the whole thing popular. But if I was having veneers, that's definitely what I would do, because you go through a process where you can test drive what the end result is going to look like before committing to it, and that dictates your preparation, rather than the non-prep where you start with your teeth and the end result is dictated by the position of your teeth. So that could involve some cosmetic compromises sometimes. So I hope you got something out of this. I hope you found it useful. If you've got questions, leave them below. If you did find it useful, please give the video a thumbs up, consider subscribing. I try and get these videos out almost every week. All right, guys. So until next time, take care.